Welcome to Sage Audio. Today let's look at how to mix vocals into a beat. But first, if you have a mix that you need mastered, send it to us to receive a free mastered sample of it with the link in the description. Use EQ to reduce masking. On the beat, I'm going to insert shade EQ and place a bell filter over 250 Hz. Then I'll sidechain the vocal. With a follower, I'll use the sidechained vocal as my trigger and then link this follower to the 250 Hz band's gain dial with a negative value. Now this means that whenever the vocal is present, 250 Hz will be attenuated on my beat. Now this reduces the beat's masking effect on the vocal, resulting in a clearer overall sound. This effect is going to be subtle, so let's listen to the full before and after of our processing. Sidechain, resonance reduction. Again affecting the beat, I'm going to insert Soothe 2 and once again sidechain my vocal. Then I'll emphasize competing frequencies between the two signals, mainly 250 Hz and 3 kHz, before reducing resonances on the beat. This will attenuate aggressive overlap between the two signals. Now as a result, the vocal sits on top of the beat a little better and the overall mix becomes more balanced. Let's take a listen. If you're enjoying the video, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It's free and it helps us bring you more videos. Use frequency-specific ducking. Next, I'm going to insert this Shaper Box plugin from Cable Guys onto the beat since it lets me perform frequency-specific ducking. I'll insert their compressor module, sidechain the vocal, and then set its triggering to the higher, more clarifying frequencies. Then, I'll ensure only the beat's highs are being attenuated. Now what I did here is cause the beat's high frequencies to be attenuated whenever the vocal's high frequencies are present. Similar to last chapter, this causes the vocal to cut through a little more and balances the overall mix. Let's take a listen. Balance vocal with EQ. Let's move on to the vocals for now and insert an EQ. I'm going to attenuate specific frequencies to make my vocal more balanced and sound clearer. In this example, the mids are pretty nasally, so I cut those a good amount, as well as dip the fundamental slightly. Now, although each vocal is different, performing similar cuts should result in a similar clear sound for whatever vocal that you're working on. Let's take a listen and notice how the vocal has a clearer sound. Process and center vocal. Again on the vocal, I'm going to mildly process and then center the vocal using this Lifeline Expand strip by Excite Audio. Now with it, I introduced some tube distortion, very mild reamping, and slight signal degradation before putting all of that processing into the center. As a result, info that would have been added to the side image by these previous processors is instead made mono, making the vocal more powerful and sit in the middle of our stereo image. Let's take a listen to how the strip makes the vocal sound more powerful. Bring vocals forward. After my vocals have some processing, I'm going to emphasize those added details with compression and makeup gain. I'll use softer knee compression with look ahead, and again auto makeup gain to attenuate peaks, but then bring the quieter details forward by amplifying after the attenuation has occurred. Now this is going to keep the vocals sounding uniform and increase details that we would have otherwise lost. Let's take a listen. Today's video is brought to you by Patrick Von Gobel, a talented and versatile guitarist that specializes in guitar solos and high-quality recordings. On his Fiverr page, you'll notice what he charges for 3 guitar solos and that you retain the copyright for these solos. So check him out using the link in the description and let's take a listen to his playing. Use mid-side EQ on beat. Right now the beat is sounding a little boring, so let's add a mid-side EQ to emphasize parts that won't interfere with the vocal, but still augment the beat. On the mid image, I boosted the kick and sub around 40 Hz, then dipped around 2.5 kHz to reduce vocal masking. Now on the side image, I amplified 300 Hz to add some width, and 2.5 kHz on the side image as well, to blend with the vocal's presence but not overpower it, since they occupy different aspects of the image. Lastly, I amplified the air of the beat on the side to expand the stereo image and make the overall beat sound slightly more impressive. Let's take a listen to how the beat becomes more impressive, but that these changes don't clash with the vocal.
Have you ever spent a night like this? No, you dream about a time like this. Love it when I hit it right, hit it right, hit it right.
If you're enjoying the channel, use the search box to watch more of our videos. Saturate vocal mids and highs. Although we're getting closer to blending the two signals, the vocal is still sounding underdeveloped. So let's introduce some warm tape saturation to the mid frequencies and some clean tube saturation to the vocal highs to introduce harmonics and vary the frequency response, causing a more complex sound. Now this is going to fill out the vocal, but it's also going to help it sit into the beat by adding frequencies that were missing from the overall mix. Let's take a listen.
Have you ever spent a night like this? No, you dream about a time like this. Love it when I hit it right, hit it right, hit it right.
Introduce temporal processing. Next, let's add some temporal or time-based effects to the vocal. Using sends, I'll introduce reverb that isolates the reflections to the mid-frequency range, letting it blend into the mix. Then I'll set up another send and introduce eighth note delay with mild left-right variation. This plugin also lets me set up delay ducking, so I'm going to use that to help the vocal's transient cut through. Now one last thing that I did was send a little of the reverb to this delay as well. Now this will help the vocal to blend into the beat as well as create an interesting sound. Let's take a listen.
Have you ever spent a night like this? No, you dream about a time like this. Love it when I hit it right, hit it right, hit it right.
Quick master bus processing. If we process the vocal and the beat collectively, we help tie their sound together. Now with that in mind, I inserted this mid-side compressor on my stereo output. It'll dynamically widen the image by compressing the mid more than the side, as well as create cohesive dynamics amongst the two signals. Then, I brighten the full mix with this Air EQ before introducing some clipping to add high frequencies to my transients, as well as louden the overall mix. Let's take a listen to how these three processors work well for a demo master and also help tie everything together.
Have you ever spent a night like this? No, you dream about a time like this. Love it when I hit it right, hit it right, hit it right.
If you have a mix that you need mastered, send it to us to receive a free mastered sample of it with the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching.